better. On Sunday, I used a stool. I brought a stool. I said, I can do that. But I took a couple Advil when I got home. You worked hard, buddy. I appreciate your work. You jumped right in the deep end. Because that was a mob Saturday. It was just crazy. So, selling bratwurst downtown.
Oh.
That was the mob.
I know James said he was pretty busy with that. I was out on military duty this weekend, so I didn't get to attend.
Oh, you missed that.
Yep.
It was a swamp. I mean, we got loaded. He was cash and
We probably had to do a counting sheet on it. I do a lot of math.
he didn't have a whole lot of time.
That's fine.
There were a dozen deep, I think, all day Saturday. I mean, till when I left at 2:30, it hadn't stopped. So it was still just going.
3:15, maybe.
Slowed.
I'm sure everyone down there as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's right.
Fine, just the lead off the best country to some firm. Right. That's why you said that year is much this year as it's done the 2 years prior to that.
All right, seeing that it's 4 o'clock, following order of thank you. Go. I'd like to call the Monday, October 17th, 2022 BPW board meeting to order. First order of business, invocation and pledge of allegiance. Start with, Lord, watch over this board and all the BPW staff to provide helpful, reasonable, and responsible actions so to benefit ratepayers in a meaningful way. May the board provide logical direction in a fair and moral way using your guidance. Thank you for gifting all of us with a moral compass that guides us to fair treatment and mutual respect of all people we interact with. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business, do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And any comments from the audience? Now that you're an audience. All right, and move right along to Mr. Gordon's general manager report.
Fantastic. The report is provided in the documents. However, I'm going to go through and cover just a couple of things very quickly. Number one, we have our solar request, and RFP has been put out to market. And so currently we're going to be having a meeting for all of the possible contractors, bidders. And there's currently 23 that have responded that will be on that in that meeting. We're looking at putting a solar farm, at least we're considering putting about a 7-megawatt solar farm right on the airport property. There's about 70 acres to the east of the runway that we would be utilizing. We're also considering about a 3-megawatt battery. And that has to do as much with the actual ability to engineer and put that in what fits best for our system. And that's per consultants. The RFP has been documented from the APPA. That's part of the document that I've shared with that. So if there's anybody within the sound of our voice that is watching this meeting that have interest in providing or participating in that RFP, we encourage them to do just that. On our
Question about
yes,
is there or will we become contingent under the rules of FAA? In other words, do they have input that would supersede our use of that?
we are working with the city's engineers, airport engineers, Javiation. They're taking a look at exactly what sort of rules we fall under. If it falls under the FAA we end up with one set of rules. If we do not, we fall under another one, and they're checking to see just exactly where we fall. So I can't answer that at this point in time, but that's a question we've asked, and we're going to get that verified as to what we're going to have to do. So there's several studies that have to be done, environmental studies, because we're looking at removing some trees. We're looking at a glare analysis that has to be done on all airports. And again, what level to what depth is required depends on what the FAA, whether they are or are not involved. And so we're checking on that and doing that the right way.
Okay, thank you.
And the engineering company works hand in hand with MoDOT Aviation too, so that's going to be another underlying body that has to be conformed with.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. So we recognize there's several, and we're not the experts there, so we are using consultants to help us to make sure that we dot every I and cross every
We're
T.
using the airport authorities consultant? Is that who we use? Okay.
Yes.
And what kind of time frame is this?
We're going to be going out to bid. Like I said, this first meeting is actually the pre-bid meeting. So they come to us with questions. We answer those questions. We share that with everyone that'll be bidding. We then accept the RFPs. That's going to be looking in December. December 15th is when we'll be opening those bids. And then it depends on what the award will be. We still have the right, we have reserved the right to not accept any of them. If it doesn't fit, even if, if your low bid still is higher than what we believe is appropriate, is not going to be a benefit to us, and then we're not going to go forward with it. So recognize, please, we're going to do that. The other part of that is that for some community solars, they have a business model where they take and they go to the community and say, all right, if you want to be green, you can pay a premium for this, and we'll give you X amount until we've sold off all 7 megawatts. We're not going to do that right now. Our model is that we're going to take, if we can get 7 megawatts put back into our system, we're going to share that savings with everyone across the board. So everybody's going to take advantage of us building that solar project. And that's how we plan on putting that power back into the system.
Thanks for moving that forward.
So Darren, will the funding and the plan for funding and possible tax credits be a part of the RFP?
Yes, that absolutely is. So what happens is we're looking for a third party. They will come in and they'll be sort of that middleman. They're going to be building it. They will own it. They will operate it. We will get a cost per kilowatt that we'll be paying for. It'll be for about 20 years, depends on what kind of contract they want to provide to us. The better is their competition. They're competing with one another. At the end of that, we can either extend that contract or that property the solar panels become ours, but that's the way that third party gets to take advantage of all of the tax credits, et cetera. We cannot do that, so we need to have another party come in and do that.
That's a conventional way of doing it?
It absolutely is.
Has anybody ever considered having the city be the owner of the tax credits and make profit as the tax credit holder?
I don't know that that's possible.
Because we're a nonprofit.
Correct. We're
Right,
not
but
taxed.
tax credits are
Yeah.
sold
and can
finance
be
it.
done that way. We
And
can
then
do
the
that.
ownership could be maintained with BPW of the solar panels.
We're at this point in time, one of the other things that we like about this is that there's no outlay of cash on our part. It'll be someone else that'll be doing that.
Right.
So that's what.
Great, thank you.
So those are the things we've considered and why we're heading in the direction. Next, we had a tour of our Prairie State coal generating plant, and we had both Mr. Dees and Mr. Cohen went with us, and a couple of staff members. And I simply say that is worth. You can go to their website and check it out. They provide us 20 megawatts a day of power. They do it at a very reasonable price. The other thing is that the plant itself, I think you could brag about just how clean,
It was.
how neat, the amount of emissions that they take care of. They truly are one of the state-of-the-art, one of the cleanest coal-fire generating plants. It is a base load plant, so it provides not just power for us, but also a capacity load, which is essential to us right now. And it has truly, we are not looking at having any rate increases in our electric, at least for the next quarter. Up to date, we're just fine. We've had our electric study reviewed. And because of, I believe, Prairie State being a part of our portfolio, they have really helped us in this time of immense volatility. And I take my hat off to them. They have a coal mine, and they've built a generating plant right next to it. and they don't have a single bit of transportation costs. It is belted. It's mined, brought out of the mine, put into the coal fire, and it's a fantastic plant. Extremely efficient. Bill, any comments, or Bob,
Yeah,
anything?
the coal mine itself, I was very impressed with how clean it was. There was not dust down there. I expected it to be dusty and having to wear masks and respirators, and it was very clean. The output from the plant, from the electric plant, was very clean. The scrubbers work, and all that's coming out of there is steam. I was really impressed. It was a great facility.
My big impression was how clean, and the final product they put out in the air is so immensely clean that it's far above what most other plants are doing. And they're just so efficient in the way they reuse a lot of the product they're putting out. Once it comes out, they pipe it back in and reuse the same material over and over again, and it's just amazing.
They use their own they're generating their own electricity to
Yes.
operate the plant, so it's circular. It really is good.
Darren, are you saying they have no fly ash then? They sell it all?
They do. They sell it.
They sell it?
They capture it and sell it.
Yeah,
One of the
that's
things-
part of the scrubber operation where they can, I think it was the train that took it out, but anyway.
But it's captured, so they're creating it, but they're capturing almost all of it, and they're able to sell it. They found a couple of other places where they have some of the waste products from that process, and they're selling it. There's gypsum, there's so, yeah, they're getting, so it's very interesting in this world where we've got inflation going this way. They've not only been able to meet those demands, but actually improve it, so their costs have actually gone down even more, so. As we're part owners through MPUA, it's an absolute plus.
You know, at one time for the Board of Public Works, that didn't look like a good investment.
Yep,
But,
That's right.
Boy, it's sure turned around.
that's my understanding. So it's done a very good service for us. We're proud of it. Next on the list is we've had Public Power Week, October 3rd through 7th, and I'll just simply say two things. Number one, thank you to all of our staff that participated in that. We do it with the community, so we had members of the General Mills staff that came and helped us out. It was a week's worth of effort and work, and the union itself, they helped participate on the Wednesday, the Day of Giving through the United Way, that they sponsored that. And so we truly appreciate everything that our staff and our union have done to help that and make it a success. And I would also say the person that was responsible for that recently left us to better herself, which left it all in the lap of Courtney. And Courtney did just an absolutely fantastic job of keeping it running and making it work. And she will graciously say there were several others that simply stepped up to the plate, and I agree. It was truly a team effort, I think, having that happen. I just give kudos to everybody and all of our supervisors that they went out of their way to make it a success. And
Get that in the
thank
notes, will you, Courtney?
them. You better believe it. And then finally, Hurricane Ian. It came up at the end of September. We were called upon, and we sent 5 of our linemen, 1 supervisor, 4 linemen with vehicles to support them. They went down to Orlando. There was one point in time when the hurricane first hit in Orlando itself, there was about 80,000 of their people out of power. Our guys are truly, they're professionals, and they are respected for that. And while some of them, the crews that were there from other parts of the nation were sent home, our guys were actually held an extra day because of the size of equipment and the professionalism and the good work habits that our guys have. And we appreciate them doing that. And that's part of an MOU. So someday, if we have another problem here, and we probably will, I'm not predicting anything.
Really?
But if we need help, we do the same thing. We can call our state agency. We have memos of understanding with them and agreements that they will come and help us in times of need. If we have to go further, you go to a federal, national agreement, which is through the American Public Power Association, and we can reach outside the state to get help as well. It works very well, and it's a pretty good relationship. That's about all I have for my report, other than, and we've talked about the PR. I hope you've also looked in your, what the information we've provided. Matthew Jones has done a video of our water treatment facility. And it's on your, it's on your documents here in your board pack. I'd invite you to take a look at that, see what you think, because we're looking at putting that, making it live in something that you can link to as you go to our website. And Matthew has done what I believe is an absolutely stellar and professional job. And he'll just bashfully say, oh, heck, nothing, don't worry about it. But he really should be applauded for that work.
I did look at it. It
job.
looks great, Matthew. Appreciate your work.
And that's all for my report.
Any questions about Darren's report? Having heard none, ask Matt Munslinger to start with the operations report.
Good afternoon. Start with electric. Again, our reliability number is going up. We had fewer outages this past month. We had 13 that totaled 626 minutes of outage time. As you can see in your board report, most of that's caused by squirrels. It's just that time of year. We are looking into different mechanisms that we can implement or construction techniques to help prevent, that squirrel and that lifeline interaction. Darren brought up about the lineman that went down to assist with the restoration work from Hurricane Ian. Water system, we did do a GAC change out at the 30th of the month. We did both vessels in one day, which typically we had done a single vessel. But due to the time frame that the contractor or the supplier had, they were able to do both vessels in a long day. We're continuing with our production numbers to stay above what we were in 2021, which is good. For Paul's numbers, hopefully we're selling more water, generating more income to help pay for the increased operation costs at the water plant. We're continuing to do some fact finding on our water loss. We've worked with Gordon Eden, and they've installed some technology to help identify where we're potentially losing water that we're not aware of at this time. Overall, wastewater plant numbers are low because we didn't have any rain, so therefore we didn't have any I&I issues at the plant. River levels are low, Bear Creek's low, and so as you see, we're actually down. Average day for the month of September was down around 3 million gallon. On the sewer side of things, crew spent a bunch of time up at Bear Creek Dam. Since we don't have a stormwater crew, we utilize our sewer crew to do any improvements up there. Because of us not having any rain, we were able to get in behind the dam, remove a bunch of debris. I mean, it was over, I think, approaching 100 truckloads of debris we moved, mainly logs and tree debris that we have to move that floats down. Bear Creek clogs the inlet, and then every time we have a DNR or Corps of Engineers inspection, they note it on their thing, but we can only get back here during the most extreme dry times of the year. And so they were able to get in there and do that. They also worked out on the spillway out of Highway HH. They utilized a skid steer and a mulching head, and along with our excavator to clean up some of that spillway, the bottom of it and up the side banks that they've asked us to clear for the last several years now. And it was finally dry enough that we were able to get in there and do that cleaning. So they spent quite a bit of time doing that. We're continuing on with our water and electric metering equipment upgrades. The water side, we're hitting to where we're getting low on inventory, so we're kind of slowing down there. Mainly focus has been on electric meters at this point. We're utilizing our meter technicians and also several linemen to make those changes as well. That's pretty much it for that report, unless you all have any questions.
Just one thing, Andy said, you guys used the mulching head from the city and you broke a couple of teeth. You worked it so hard, and he said much appreciated.
Yeah, we got them back. We got them replaced. We appreciate the ability to utilize their equipment. So,
All right, anybody have questions about the operations report?
Any further progress on, I know you addressed you're continuing to work, any indications yet as to where that water loss is coming from?
We don't. We do have a guy that comes in and listens on hydrants and valves. He does that about every June. He identified a few small leaks, but we don't have the water loss we think we have is larger than that, but we don't have any good data on where it is or
Okay.
where it is. I mean, where it is or what's causing it, I guess. I mean, with the hilly terrain that we have and the heavy rock, you know, there's water leaks that we have that never make it to the surface.
Right.
And so what they're doing right now is they're monitoring our equipment at the plant. We got flow meters when we're putting that water out into the system. They're double checking that. And then once they get that where they feel they got a comfortable handle on it, then they'll start moving out in the system and trying to isolate. Is it in this pressure zone or is it in that pressure zone? And so it's going to take time just to try to set that trend line and whatnot. So, but it is something that we're continuing to work on.
All right. Thank you.
Matt, I saw a number of things in there about continued firmware updates on the monitoring system,
On the
metering system. Is that something that we collectively, you, are concerned about, the speed at which the repairs are happening?
The repairs, we can't make them happen any faster, unfortunately.
I mean, from the supplier side is what I'm
From
talking
the supplier side, so, for instance, if a meter fails, it's currently under warranty, I have to go through their return merchandise authorization process, which unfortunately gets shipped to Texas and then hand carted across the border to Mexico. And then it gets hand processed in Mexico. They create me a replacement and send it back. That's taken about 40 weeks.
Wow.
I got no way to do it any faster.
Right, right.
So if I were to order new meters, historically that was about 16 weeks. Right now we're averaging 36 to 50 weeks depending on meter type and quantity. So fortunately, when we bought all of our products in 2019, I bought everything that we could possibly need with a handful of what we're still waiting for. So we're going to be able to get really close at the end of this year by getting the majority of it deployed. But the last update that I got, some of our final water meters and electric meters won't be here till May, June of next year.
That problem, it sounds like you're saying, isn't exclusive to us.
No, I've talked to another customer who does the exact same thing that we're doing in the process of upgrading their system. They did not order in advance, so they got enough to do their initial pilot, which was roughly 1,000 customers, and they're just waiting now.
No, sounds like it's in good hands.
We're trying.
Yeah. Well, if we're done with operations, if Matt, you could stay up there and move on to project report.
Let's skip down to the stormwater projects. Utility development, we're still working with Black and Veatch to come up with we think we have a solution to get a ballot initiative for April 23. That's just something we'll be working on in the coming months. I think we have to have approval December or January to get that on the ballot. So we'll have more information on that to come. On the electric side, the big projects have been the 161 project. I can't remember. We did get our 161 transformer in. That was something that we ordered in June of 2021. That finally arrived at the last week of September this year. They got it in, able to get it set. They did some testing. There was a couple minor issues with that. Just got a call before I stepped into this meeting that contractor will be on site tomorrow to make the changes and corrections necessary to make it complete. And so we're good to go there. The line builder, they've got all but 2 poles set, one right outside our Oakwood substation over here on Orchard Avenue, and then a corner pole to the east of the scrap yard there that they have to set, waiting on concrete test results to come back before they set those 2 poles. They have been working on tearing down our old 74 line. It ran all the way from the Mark Twain Cave up across Route T, through the country, paralleled our new line for part of it into Oakwood Sub. Ameren had an outage on that portion between Route T and Mark Twain Caves. They went in there and wrecked out all that old, a majority of that old stuff, anything that was close to Ameren's line. That way it was de-energized and we were able to get that out of there. They've deconstructed most of the line across where it parallels. up to the Miller property, and then they've got to finish deconstructing between Oakwood Substation and the Miller property. They'll have a crew. I think they came back on site this week, and that's their main focus, is deconstructing that old line and getting it out of there.
What happens to all that old stuff?
It's theirs. They can salvage it
Okay.
how they see fit. A lot of the old poles that they had, they were full of woodpecker holes, so they had guys that wouldn't climb them, and that portion there along the Ameren's line, they were actually cutting them down. And when they hit the ground, they break in 3 or 4 pieces. They had so many holes in them. So, I mean, there was no value in that. We did take some cross arms off of some poles, some fiberglass cross arms that were, it was a couple years ago. In 2020, we had a windstorm, went through and knocked down about 7 or 8 poles. We took those cross arms back and restocked them in our inventory. So all in all, that project's going well. We're still online to be, or on schedule to be energized by the end of the year, which is what the original goal was. Ameren actually energized their portion back on the 6th of October. So just give you a couple updates on a couple of city projects that we're involved with. Union Street storm sewer replacement. T&B Trucking and Excavating was the contractor that was low bid on that. They've been on site since, I believe, about the 26th of September. They've been excavating out the old street. There's a few utility modifications that the project required that they completed. And last I heard, they were waiting on some clearances with CDBG on their crane contractor to get in there and actually start setting the box culvert structure. So on that project, it's supposed to be finished up near the end of the year. The only thing that would not be done this winter would be the pavement restoration work, which would have to wait until next spring when it warmed up. And that was a portion of the project the in-kind portion of the project that the city was going to complete anyhow. The other one is the Lakeside Drive extension. That's the extension of Lakeside Drive from Sleep Inn down past our west substation. That's the third entrance into the business park. We're paying the 20% match on that. It was estimated at roughly $1 million project. Bly Construction was a low bid, about $680,000, and so they're currently putting down base, and that project is supposed to be completed by the end of November.
Great.
And then I do have some pictures I'd like to share with you.
Is that a concrete pavement or is it
It is.
asphalt? Okay.
All right, here's the first picture. This is looking from the Roland property to the east. The road here and is Route O. So this is going up along here. You can see our old pole lines here. New pole lines, these steel poles that kind of zigzag through here. It's not really aesthetically pleasing because it is zigzagging, but we had to do it that way in order to meet the requirements of the gas company. There's a high pressure gas main that goes down through here as well. And we had to be a certain amount of feet away from it. We're going to have to go out and do some mitigation work to help prevent straight currents from causing any gas line or corrosion as well. This is a picture standing down closer to Route O, looking back from where the previous picture was taken. You can kind of see we were up here on a knob taking that other picture. We got the steel poles with the old 74 line here, and to the left, you can actually see the line down here on the ground as well.
What's the height of the new poles versus the old?
New poles are about 90 feet, I believe. Just depends on where they are and what the topography are. The old poles are 60 to 70 feet tall.
So that's going to save us a lot of money in the future because of maintenance requirements, keeping the trees out. It's a little tougher for them to get up there.
Yeah, that coupled with the fact that we're going back with a 161 kV line, you can see the difference in the right-of-way. The old right-of-way was cleared to about here. We acquired new right-of-way as part of this project, so with a higher voltage, we have to have a further clear distance.
There's no climbing on the steel poles?
They do
buckets?
have the ability to climb steel poles. There's climbing pegs. The main reason is there's going to be fiber optic running as part of this, and we want to be able to get up there and make a change if necessary.
Where's the fiber optic gonna be?
And the top ran with the static line.
Is there gonna be a need for guide wires?
There are some locations that require guide wires. I got a set of plans laid on the front desk here. You can look through there. At the end of the Drennan property, up here, after it crowns this hill, it goes down the valley and then makes a right-hand turn. Once it makes that right-hand turn, right before we connect to Ameren, there's guide wires so that we're not putting undue strain on Ameren's pole structure as well, and it protects us as well from Ameren's structure.
But I was talking about guys, since
Nope.
they're zigzag back and forth.
Nope, they're meant to have, and I'll try to get a picture to you next month. The framing structure on this is you probably have the insulators off to this side on this pole and off to this side on this pole. So here's a picture looking out from our Oakwood substation at the structure in the middle over here at the scrapyard. You can see how the insulators will be off here. We've got a pole base that's right here just out of the picture, and then another pole base that's over here on the hill. This was the transformer delivery. Weighed about 180,000 pounds without all of the accessories or the oil. So it came in on this semi-trailer. Truck and trailer had roughly 16 axles. They had to have special permitting, police escort when it came into Missouri. And so this is the truck it showed up here on. I believe it showed up on the 27th, a Tuesday, late in the day. They had to transfer it over to this Goldhofer trailer. 5 axles, all tires. They needed this shorter trailer, so they were able to get it up under the site to move it into its final resting location. And one thing about this is they didn't use a crane at all. They did it by jacking it up and sliding it. And so this next picture here shows the plates that they used to slide from trailer to trailer. This runner piece was laid down flat on the trailer. They jacked up the transformer and put these slide plates underneath it. You can see the bottom plate here. Then they used this hydraulic ram. It would push out using these notch pieces to catch. It would push out, fully extend, and push the transformer. And then when it retracted, it would ratchet up to the next spot. And then it'd push out again. And then once it hit the end of its reach, they'd retract it, it'd pull up, and they'd keep pushing until they got it moved over. I think they started setting it up about 4 o'clock, and by 7 o'clock they were done moving it over to the trailer. Here you can kind of see you got the thin steel plates here underneath and the hydraulic ram pushing it over. This was once the transfer was complete. That first day they were on site. They had it moved from the heavy haul trailer over to this Goldhofer trailer. And this is how they transferred it over onto the actual final spot here for the transformer. Built up the cribbing. They put these heavier duty rails under it. They jacked up the transformer while it was on the trailer. Installed these rails laying across the bed of the truck, and then put this cribbing over to the site. And then similarly, they had a hydraulic ram that pushed it. These were the plates that the transformer was sat on. Hydraulic rams down here in between these rails, and it would push. And then when it reached the end of its cycle, they'd retract it. It would go up to the next notch and push it in. This is looking from the south to the north. You can see how the 2 rails are here. Here's the slide plate that it's resting on, and then the hydraulic rams will be on the other end of it. Then once they got it centered where they wanted it, it was just a matter of using these hydraulic jacks here in the 2 locations on this side and 2 locations on the other side. They'd raise it up, pull cribbing out from the stationary cribbing. They lower it down, set it on that cribbing, retract the jacks all the way, pull cribbing out from underneath the jacks, jack it back up.
It's like moving a house.
I mean, yeah. So it was pretty neat process that they put this spot on where the contractor wanted it without the use of, I mean, really any heavy equipment other than the telehandler to move these heavy rails and to make sure that they had the necessary cribbing there that they needed. And this was at the end of the second day. They had a transformer on there. They had I guess maybe it was the third day. They had the contractor come in. They actually had impact sensors on there, one on the top and one on the far side. They came in. They cut the protective plastic off of it, made sure there was no damage to it. Took those impact sensors back so they could pull all the data from. And you can see like these white plates there. I'll show you. It's better in this picture. This is where all the cooling fins would attach. And so on the Saturday of that week, the contractor for WEG came in, and they started attaching all the cooling fins. They had to put the bushings in the top side, and they made sure that all the ancillary items, these are brackets for the cooling fans that go underneath here, they were all put on. They had to have a crane on site to do that. That's what that looked like. And once I got all the bushings in, the fans on, they did some minor testing then they started filling it with oil. But in order to fill it with oil, they had to pull a vacuum on it for 24 hours to try to dry it out as much as possible. And then when the oil came in, it would go through this processing trailer. It would heat it up, and then they press all the moisture out of it before they put it in. And they were still pulling vacuum on the transformer while they were doing this. It took roughly 12,000 gallons of oil to fill it. They did it over was it about 13 or 1,500 gallons an hour is all they could put in.
Is that just a white mineral oil?
It's just, yeah. And actually, if you go down there today, we got a similar setup on one of our older transformers. We got a company in doing some repair work on it, and they're doing the same thing. They got a semi-trailer backed in there where they got the processing equipment, and they got a stainless steel tanker that they're pumping it out. Getting in the transformer, seeing what's causing our bad readings when we pull oil samples, and then they'll hopefully be able to fix it, and then transfer that, clean and process that mineral oil and put it back in the transformer. There's the final transformer. And then, like
Approximately
Darren,
1.7 million. That
Yeah.
transformer in place, as ready, meets all specs, and part of that project's 1.7, correct?
yeah, that was June of 2021 numbers. It would probably cost over $2 million now.
Yes.
This is Prairie State. Darren's report talked about going there on the 30th. Here's the mine, the main building for the mine. Here's the surge piles of the coal once it's brought out of the mine. You can see the conveyors. They're bringing it across the state highway or the highway there. To the south, here's the air scrubber. And here's the coal pile for the actual power plant. If you'd seen previous pictures of the coal piles, they were a lot larger. But what they're trying to do is be more of an on-demand supplier of coal to the power plant. When this coal sits out here and gets wet, it diminishes its BTU value. So they're trying to just produce enough to keep it going into the plant within the next day or two. They will have some outages that will help build up stockpile, but they're trying to manage the coal pile as best they can to get the most value out of it. Here's another view of the coal pile, and we were talking earlier about the fly ash. They're able to capture most of it and right now they're selling 100% of it. The next thing is gypsum. Right now they're landfilling it, and I'll show you a picture with the landfill in it here in a minute. But They did a pilot project sitting right down in here where they got belt filter presses. I assume it's similar to what we've got at our wastewater plant for our biosolids. And they're able to press out that gypsum from the cooling tower water. Once this pilot study was successful, and they got people that want this gypsum, and so in the next, I think it's in the next calendar year, they're going to do $20 or $30 million upgrade to be able to press out that gypsum and load it so that they can get it sent to the drywall manufacturers that want it. And so once they do that, a majority of their byproducts are taken care of and no longer having to be landfilled.
Is the gypsum what they slurry to use in their stack?
Yep, that's part of the flue gas capture. Yep, they'll bring in limestone, grind it, and shoot it in there in a slurry, and that captures a certain flue gas that they're after. This is standing. All these pictures were taken from the 11th story of the power plant, and so you got a good view. In the distance here, it is the landfill, and so by them able to sell the fly ash, them able to sell the gypsum, they're able to sustain this on-site landfill for a longer period. These ponds here, different cooling. They're bringing in water from the Kaskaskia River to help through the process, and so they've got the main water holding pond that they're bringing in. They treat the water here at the treatment plant before they send it to whatever process is using it. They're bringing water back out of the plant, settling solids out before they're discharging it or before they're reusing it. And there's a picture of the generator, I believe. There was another picture in Darren's report as well. So, nameplate on the generator is roughly 900 megawatts gross. They do sell it all out to the Ameren or to the transmission side, and then they buy about 75 megawatts of it back in so that they can operate the power plant. So we get about 820, I think, is what we get out of it on a daily basis. That's all I've got, unless y'all got any questions or want to see.
And like Bob said, that runs at about 4,000 PSI. It's got the fins are supersonic, but the efficiency is when we were there, we saw the control room. It was the efficiency for the heat rating was right around 97.2%, which means they take off of every usage they take the heat off of this and put it in here to warm up the fuel before it gets there, and they take the heat that's extra there and they just keep using all of it. It's exceptionally efficient.
And while we were there, there was actually an outside firm taking readings throughout the actual boiler itself to try to improve the efficiency of that coal burn. They'd open little inspection ports, put a rod in there that had some measuring device, and they were taking readings. But it's something that company does all over, and so they were bringing them in. This was the day before. I think at midnight that night they were shutting down for their planned outage, which was a 35 day planned outage. And so they had materials on site getting ready to take advantage of that outage. So.
That's interesting.
I saw a video on YouTube that I think this group put together, and it's kind of all exactly there. They got into the technicals of the scrubbers and how clean it is. It's really just amazing. All right. Anybody have any questions of Matthew or Matt? Thanks very much. Those pictures were telling. And moving on to Paul for the financial report, please.
Yeah, I don't know how you follow all that up with a finance report, but somebody's got to pay for all that, I
You
suppose.
had a cameo picture in there, a cameo appearance.
I will say, to Mike's point, on the Prairie State investment as a whole and the benefit to Hannibal, one thing they did mention is something you got to realize is that we're not even 10 years old yet as a plant, and the amount of data that we're getting every day and collecting is really starting to pay off, and the investments that they're making to make it more efficient, and we're finally starting to see some of those benefits. So I kind of expect those to continue as it becomes older as a plant. But let's look at the September financial report, and we'll start with the balance sheet here. Very little change from the previous month. In cash, anyway, there was a significant reduction in receivables. Main reason for that's usually just due to timing of when people pay. Also, August would have been a much higher usage month compared to September. Overall, utility-wide total assets are consistent with last month and about 14% more than a year ago. And again, that's due to the significant electric project that we have going on. The income statement, current month compared to budget, overall utility-wide, we had budgeted about a $16,000 net income, so basically break even. This is what we would consider a shoulder month. We don't typically see very high revenues. However, we did come in with a net income of about $228,000 more than what we had budgeted. We had gains in all three funds, and the largest gain did come in the electric fund, which is about 123% better than budget. Revenues in that fund were about 2% more than budget, and purchase power costs were right in line with what we had budgeted, which is always a good sign. Next page would be our current month compared to last year. Compared to a year ago, we were just a little bit behind last year, about $42,000. The only fund that did better than last year was the sewer fund, and that was due to higher revenues. We did have kilowatt hour sales that were about 3.5% lower than what they were last year. Had a bit of a cooler month this year, so less usage there for September. Year to date compared to budget, we're a quarter of the way into our new fiscal year now. We do have a utility-wide net operating income that's about $424,000 more than budgeted. All three funds are performing better than budget so far due to higher revenues. And we've been talking about it over and over, but purchase power costs in the electric fund are about $2.5 million over budget. However, those are being directly offset with the MISO credits that we get back from our hedge with Prairie State, and those are also over budget by about $2.5 million. So that net difference there is zero in terms of comparing our purchase power cost to what we had budgeted for the year. Last page we'll look at is our year-to-date compared to last year. Utility-wide net income is about $400,000 more this year than last. The main reason for that is going to be that significant windstorm that we had back in August of 2021. We had much higher labor costs that came in as a part of that last year. And so far not having any of those events have helped us quite a bit with the financial numbers. We also have revenues that are up about 4% utility-wide. You'll recall that we had the water rate increase that's attributing to that quite a bit. Net purchase power costs are up about 6%, and operating expenses compared to last year, like I mentioned, are down about 6%. So really overall, pretty happy with the results as far as comparing them to budget, especially with the volatility out in the market right now. We do have, like Matt mentioned, right now as we speak, are in the middle of that Prairie State outage. And so we are a little bit anxious about some of those numbers that'll come in here over the next month. But we'll definitely be monitoring that fund pretty closely. Just an update on the audit. As of today, I have pretty much followed up on all of their outstanding items, along with tons of help from Beverly and Courtney and Kathleen and some other people that have assisted with that, and I appreciate everyone's efforts. We do have an actuary report that we'll be receiving by the end of the week, and then our loggers report is expected usually the first week of November, and so we still do anticipate getting a draft in front of the board at our next board meeting. So basically what to say there is that everything is going along smoothly and as planned. Skip on down now to page 21. We'll take a quick look at our debt service coverage ratio and how we're doing with our debt covenants. All three funds, you can see there, are meeting those covenants, which again are 1.25. The water fund continues to hover right around 1.7, which is a good sign for that fund. And then all the other normal items are reported there. And so that's all I have for the finance report, unless anybody has any questions.
Well, is there any activity, I know that we talked about it a long time ago, about trading in some of these 1.5% financial instruments with newer, higher return instruments?
Yeah, on the investments. The way we laddered those when they were first set up, I would say I have about between 2 and 6 every month that are coming due. So obviously a lot of those that are coming due, some of the ones that were 4 or 5 year instruments were similar in interest rates, and so we're kind of just replacing those. But some of the ones that are longer term, that are at that 0.5% and 1%, unfortunately, with those being termed out as CDs, we pay a penalty for paying those off early and then reinvesting. We could definitely do some calculations on those to see if the overall interest that we would make up would offset that penalty. That is something I haven't looked at, but yeah, obviously the market right now in terms of CDs and treasuries is much more attractive than what it was just about a year ago.
Yeah, that was the next question, but you already answered it.
Yeah. So it makes my job easier when I'm reinvesting some of these instruments compared to last year. But everyone kept saying last year to keep everything as short term as possible because they kind of knew this was coming. And so that's what we did for about the last year or so. We did 3-month or 6-month investments. And so now those are all coming due here at once. And I'm still really kind of doing some short term in anticipation of rates continuing to rise.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the plan going forward.
All right, any other questions?
I have one under the check register. I noticed that Townsend hit us with a significant fuel charge.
Fuel surcharge.
Yeah, I was looking at that. So the issue there, that reference that's listed there, that is basically all of the invoices that were included under that check. And so the fuel surcharge that Townsend has put out there for us has averaged about $600 to $800 a month. So it's not that full. I can't remember what it was. 36,000. That would have been our normal Townsend work that we pay for, and then the surcharge portion of it was, I believe, last month was around $657. And what that portion relates to is they came to us a few months ago when fuel costs were kind of at their peak. And asked, or basically laid that out there as part of the bid that we had made with them. These were the cost increases that they were seeing, and had asked, or basically had set an average with the fuel cost at that time, and said that any overage that went over that would be added as a surcharge.
Yes.
So we're really looking at a few $100 in the surcharge.
Exactly.
And the way it read, it looked like it was an additional.
34, yeah.
It was a 30,000, and I was kind of taken back by that.
Right.
When is our contract completed with Townsend?
So we just redid that contract in July of 2021, and I believe it was.
It's a yearly contract with an annual renewal. Okay. So we bid it for 3 years, and so we just signed a renewal with them that goes to the end of June of 23.
Okay.
And then we have the option to pick up the 23-24 year.
I see.
With them as well.
Okay. Thank you.
If no other questions, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Next item of business is we are congratulating Melissa Cogwell for her work on the board, and I'd like to commemorate that with a plaque. Darren, maybe you can present this to us.
Be glad to. Melissa served from April of 2021 to June of 2022. Come on up, you guys. Can we get a picture? Somebody can you take a picture? Let's come up here.
And took all the fancy pictures of the
Do the Bible flag.
Okay. Yeah, trying to.
Yeah, put the screen up and get the, oh, we do it all.
You're getting in on the flags and all?
You bet. We're gonna get, sorry, nice and slow. But I will tell you that anyone that is willing to step up and serve on any of the boards and any of the councils that are here in the community, thank you. It is really, truly a unselfish act. It takes a lot of work. Sometimes there's a lot of pressure that comes with it, all that good stuff. And you've done fantastic things with it. So in 2 seconds, we'll take a picture.
Get the reveal here.
That's right.
We had a pretty good chuckle about it down in City Hall. They said, 6 years ago, somebody tells you that the Board of Public Works is going to give you a plaque.
Matt, where would you like us to be? This good enough?
Works for me.
We'll hold this right.
Sure.
Good stuff.
Thank you
Sure.
guys
Let's
so
up
much.
over.
It was working with everybody. Thank you. These are cold. Good luck.
Thanks.
Big shoes to fill.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
We also have a recommendation, or combination with a plaque from a safety award from MPUA. And Darren, since you know all the details, can you please let us know?
Pretty simple. There's a couple of things. Number one, if we look at our mission of the Board of Public Works is to provide safe, reliable utility products with excellent customer service at reasonable prices. And the very first thing there is for safety. And this is an award for the year of 2021. It says that is in recognition of implementing safety utility practices resulting in a perfect safety record for 2021, meaning we had no lost time injuries from any of our employees.
Really?
And that really truly is a
That's amazing.
fantastic thing.
That
And
is-
it is, it's, and especially in our industry. I'm sorry, we've got folks that are out there in harm's way, and so they're doing it right. We have monthly safety meetings. We are implementing some other items out there in the workplace to make sure that they're safe, and so we're even enhancing that even more. This really is a remarkable award. We're proud of it. We've had others, but we're proud of it, and we're gonna make hay of it. So, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Great. Well done. Yeah, that's really nice. And moving along, we're going to talk about the Ameren wholesale agreement. And
Last month, I presented to the board the Ameren Wholesale Connection Agreement, and this is the agreement that allows us to come into where Ameren's bringing the power into the Finn substation. It defines that connection point. It says what we own, what they're going to help manage and maintain for us, what the costs are on that, and how we communicate and do those things together. This is a kind of the final paperwork. There will be, it's been shared with me that Ameren has yet another one that they want to take an existing one and simply update it. So I'll be coming back to you again with another soon. However, I would ask that you approve this, that we can have it signed, move forward, and that this connection agreement is absolutely essential and is very, very positive and good for us. It helps define how that line is going to save us money. And again, I would just reiterate that when it comes to the 161 project that Matt and Jared and all have worked very, very hard on, it's going to actually pay off within about 8 to 9 years. So there's a return on investment of all of this effort that they're going through and making.
and of course, in last month's meeting, we had overall agreement that with no material changes, we'd certainly approve it. So I guess we're looking for a motion.
Would
to
like for a
approve
motion,
that.
please. Yes,
So
please.
moved.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Next item of new business, looks like we're moving on to an MPUA master service agreement.
If you go down to about page 77 in your packet, this is a master service agreement. The MPUA has actually taken and created a new division in which they have hired a couple of linemen. They have some vehicles to support those linemen. And they are being able to be used, they can be used for construction projects, they could be used in emergencies. And so there's been some other utilities that are absolutely taking advantage of it. This is master service agreement simply puts into place, sort of like that MOU for interagency cooperation in case of emergencies. This makes that agreement solid so that we can call on them if and when we needed to. And so, again, I would recommend that this is absolutely to our benefit. This would allow us to call upon them in any time. They would be here very quickly, coming from Columbia. It would be, this is a positive thing for us. So I would.
Is there any downside to this?
I cannot think of one. I don't know how it could be. They do. They're providing, we pay for it. There's nothing wrong with that. When we go somewhere else, they pay for our services and vice versa. So it really truly is just part of an MOU understanding where we can.
Is this new or is this just a annual type of thing?
Again, this is, no, I think once this is signed, this will be good. So far as new, they just started the hiring of these folks. I think they've been hired now for about 4 months. Yeah, that's fairly recent.
And we could also use these individuals to supplement our workforce if we had people gone for any number of reasons. We could reach out to MPUA, they could come in and help us.
So is this more formalization of what we've had
Yes.
by
Well,
just
this has
agreement in
never
the past?
This has never been in place before. MPUA has never had their own line crew.
Oh, okay.
They've implemented a new line crew to go out and help their member cities. We've always relied upon other cities' line crews to come in and help us.
And how many other groups are part of this or cities? Or do we anticipate?
I think it's 41.
Members of
in the state of
MPUA.
Missouri, and there's
Okay.
a small portion of Arkansas covers.
All right.
So the employees would only be used as needed or?
As needed. If so, again, we could use them for emergencies if we had that. We could use them for construction if we needed to do it that way, if we needed to supplement them in any way. These are purely supplemental. MPUA does not have their own system, so they are simply being used. There's a lot of smaller municipalities than ourselves where to have an extra truck or two is really beneficial. I anticipate our need for them is being very slim. I don't think that we have any great need for them right now. I think we are very self-sufficient, but if we ever needed to, we would like to be able to call upon them.
Sounds like they'll be in demand with 41 people,
Yes.
41 municipalities, and that's covered under our MPUA fees. Okay.
So a small utility, for example, doesn't have a big truck to do something. They could use theirs. They don't have to buy one.
Yep, yes,
It's strictly a pay-as-you-go thing?
yes.
So if we would never use them, we would never have a cost.
There's never a cost.
Okay.
Sorry, it's not 41, it's 120.
Motion to approve the master services agreement.
Second.
Yeah, I see no downside to it, really. Any discussion?
The only thing I would say is, I would say that instead of the city of Hannibal being the second party, instead the Board of Public Works is. And that would just streamline a little bit of the process for getting this contract approved. Whereas if we actually did put the city of Hannibal in, we would have to get the city of Hannibal to actually, through the city council, sign off on it as well. So there's really no downside. MPUA may come back and want the city of Hannibal to sign off on it as well, but we have the full authority. So as long as they're willing to do it with the Board of Public Works, then I think that is what we should do.
This seemed like under those conditions, it would fall under the
The full purview of
services and or legal representation that would be decided by the general manager here as opposed to have to go through the city council.
yeah.
So I amend my motion to include Ethan's comments.
Second.
Sounds reasonable. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Any additional comments from the city attorney?
No, I have nothing.
Okay. Great. Any general discussion? All right. Having heard none, Do I hear a
Closed
motion?
session pursuant to section 610.02112 of the Missouri Sunshine Law, the meeting shall convene in closed session to discuss contracts.
Do I have a
In
second?
closed sessions to include Darren, Matt, Paul, Courtney, and Ethan.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're in closed session, folks. I'll be right back.
Yeah.